We're going to talk about back floating. Floating, the great mystery. To float provides images of lightness, ease, contentment, surrender, no work. When I hear somebody say, I wish I could swim, with a far off look in their eyes and a wisp in their voice, it evokes this image of floating, being on cloud nine. Other times, someone will say, I wish I could swim, with a lilt of excitement in their voice. And this gives me the image of someone jumping in the water and popping up smiling, or falling back into the water in the old commercial image of the nesty plunge. Before we talk about how to back float, we must first understand the thoughts that go into floating. Whatever your thoughts are will influence how you feel, which in turn will guide your actions and give you your results. I started today with the image of the results: lightness, ease, contentment, no work, surrender. Now let's go back to the beginning with circumstance. Circumstance comes before our thoughts even. The circumstance is the physics between your body and the physics of the water. I say it like this because every person has a different body and will have a slightly different proportions from one to another. This is totally neutral, and the only body you need or you need to know about is your own. It's not about copying any other person's because, well, everybody has a different body. The physics of the water, unlike our body, has the same principles no matter what's put into it. Well, just as a side note, when I say what's put into it, I mean things like people, toys, boats, etc. If you dissolve something into water, like salt, it will change the physics. So we're talking about big solid things. So in the context of learning back float, it is about understanding the interface between your body's physics and the water's physics. To see this relationship as totally neutral. There is no good float, there's no bad float, there are just different floats. This is an important note because when we see an image, we often assign the idea of it being a good or a bad float. This is the right way to float, this is the wrong way to float. I should be trying to do this, I should be preventing myself from that. These items are actually thoughts, which goes into our next step. If you have had thoughts about floats that you should be horizontal to the surface of the water, but never can seem to do this, how do you feel? Here's some common thoughts that people have about back floating. They think you should be horizontal. People think that your feet should be off the floor in shallow water. And we think that our face should be out of the water and far away from the surface of the water. Do you feel the desired results of lightness, ease, and contentment when you're trying to do these things? When you have these thoughts, I should be horizontal, but you've noticed that you're not. Usually, when you have these thoughts and the facts are, the physics are, the circumstances are something different, you have a feeling that doesn't help you produce the desired results of ease and contentment. For most people new to swimming, or even people who are not new but have never stopped to examine the foundations of swimming, they think they should be horizontal to the surface of the water. And when they're not, they think it's wrong. This produces feelings of frustration, anxiety, fear, confusion, distrust, mystery. Then the actions and the results line up right behind those feelings to support them. To start back at the beginning with circumstances, this is a neutral place. Your body and the water have physics that interact, physics properties that interact. A thought you can have is, I wonder how these properties interact when I lie down on my back looking face up. The feeling that this could bring is a feeling of curiosity, interest, discovery. The actions are that you lie in the water without judgment, just observation. And the result is information, learning, trust. These thoughts of curiosity versus how something should be produce very different results. Now, your brain may have checked out when I made this proposal. It may have said, "What? You want me to do what? Alarm bells. There's no way. You want me to lay back in the water and be in discovery?" To learn, you must be able to remain in the present to experience it. So only lie back on the water as much or as little as you can feel what's happening, as you can stay present to the experience, as you can stay in the thought of curiosity, not forcing yourself into curiosity, but really actually staying in the thought of curiosity. When the alarm bells go firing off, you want to come back to your body, slow it down, take a simpler step so you can be in the place of curiosity. So I've got a couple of pro tips for you here for you to be playing with being on your back. The first one is wear a nose clip. So it would be okay if your face goes under the water when you're laying on your back. So this is one thing to calm your brain. You just know your nose is going to be safe. If it dips under, it's not a big deal. It's safe and it will be fine. The second one is to start in really shallow water. Like in this pool, over on those steps. Be as shallow as you can. Lay down on the steps the long way or the wide way. Lay down in a place where you could say, it would be just fine for me to lay down on my back on the floor of the pool. See if you could lay your whole torso, your whole body on the floor of the pool like you were sunbathing underwater. See number one about the nose clip. And then number three is something you need to know is very few people's feet float. Most people's feet don't float. This is normal. It's okay. It doesn't mean you're not floating. It just means your feet have drifted down. Feel the other places of your body, like around your chest, where your air is. And number four, hold your breath. Check out your back float for one breath, just like you would a front float. Even though your face is out and air is available, every time that you breathe, you're changing your buoyancy. You're increasing it with more air, you're decreasing it with less air. It can make it very complicated to start with. So just do it for one breath and then let yourself stand up and breathe and then go for it again. And the last, probably most important thing is just be curious. You're not looking for right. You're just looking for curious. How does it work? How does the physics of my body, what parts of my body are floating? What parts of my body are not floating? How does it feel when I take a big breath or I take a little breath? Could I lay down on the bottom of the pool? What kind of tension do I have in my body? Just feel and play and be curious. All right, there is some tips to get you thinking about. Started with back floating. Remember, it always starts back at those thoughts. Practice that in your daily life. And when you're ready to practice in the water with us, let us know and we'll be here.
Thanks for listening. Are you ready to take some action? 3 ways to the freeway. Subscribe, join a free webinar, get started online where we break down the steps, making them simple, and we support you along the journey. So maybe you'll join us in Hawaii. Jump on over to orcaswimschool.com.